Okay, so now we're going to take some time to explore the Pathfinder panel. So this is a feature in Illustrator that allows you to create and modify complex shapes by either adding the shapes together or subtracting the shapes from one another. And so there's another tool in Illustrator that allows you to do the same thing, but this one is convenient because it comes with its own panel. So we'll go ahead and explore that. So if you are using Align and Transform, you'll find that the Pathfinder is usually coupled along with that. You can also go to Window and find the Pathfinder panel. So I'm going to come down over here to this first part. I'll just hit Z for my zoom tool and I'll draw a marquee and zoom into there. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is just create some of these shapes. So I'm going to come over and create this rectangle shape first. Command click, and then I'll hit L for my ellipse key. I'll find the center of that rectangle using my smart guides. Hold down on Alt, hold down on Shift, and click and drag to make a circle. I know how to rotate shapes now and copy them while I do that. So I'll select the rectangle tool. I'll hit R for the rotate. I'll find that center again, hold down on the Alt key and click once. I'm going to choose a 30-degree angle of rotation and preview that. And then I will copy that rotation. I'll repeat the command. So I'll hit Command D to duplicate. And so what I have here is a collection of shapes. So if I were to say put an outline on these shapes, you can see I'm getting something, a little funky. I might not want this line to run through the center of all those. If I were to arrange this circle to the back, you can see I get a really weird looking outline of these shapes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to combine or unite all these shapes together. So with the black arrow, I'm going to do a marquee selection, and then I'm going to come over to the Pathfinder panel, and I'm looking under shape modes, and I'm going to choose the first one that says unite. And you can see after I did that, okay, now it is one shape that we can modify and do what we like. So I use this feature very often in my own workflow, so try to remember using this Pathfinder Unite. Let's go to the next one. So in this case, I'm going to start by drawing an ellipse or a circle, and I'll kind of match that crescent moon shape, and I'm going to go ahead and take off the fill so I can see underneath. Make sure I'm working with a black stroke. Alright, and so I want to create this crescent moon shape. So I'm actually going to select this same shape. I'm going to hold down on the Alt key while hovering inside, and I'm going to drag a copy of that shape, and I'll match the curve of that crescent moon. Okay, and then click release. Now I know that this last shape I made is in front or on top of the previous shape. So if I select it and then I come over here to the Pathfinder panel and look for the minus front, basically what it does is it takes that front shape and it uses it like a cookie cutter and it cuts the bottom shape. So this is a really nifty Pathfinder command that I use pretty often as well. I'll go ahead and fill that with some kind of color. Maybe I'll color it with yellow. Okay, let's try another one. I'm going to go ahead and take off the fill and choose my ellipse tool. I'm going to draw a circle, and I think in this case I'm going to not do a perfect circle, rather an ellipse. I'm going to match the bottom of this eye shape, and this is kind of good practice for working with the tools. Going to get something somewhat approximate. Then I'll release the mouse and I'll use my hand tool to kind of move up. Now I'm going to use the black arrow, hover inside, hold down on the Alt key, and I'm going to drag a copy. This time I'll hold down on Shift as well to make sure I'm dragging in the vertical axis, and I'll kind of line that up. And so what I want to do is I want to just have the shape that is intersecting in between these two. So I can select both of these shapes, and now I'm going to go to the Intersect Pathfinder option. And that's how we get that shape. Let's try it again. This time we'll do it with this cat-looking pupil in the center. Okay, so there's one side, black arrow, hold down on the Alt key, and the other side. So I'm going to make sure just to select these two circles and not that previous shape that I made. I'll go to the Intersect option and click, and then I will do Shift X to switch the stroke and the fill. Alright, so let's move over. Let's try this last shape mode option for our Pathfinder. So I'll choose the ellipse tool again. I'll do Shift X to switch the stroke and the fill, and I'll start by drawing one of these circles. That looks about right. Black arrow, hover inside, hold down on the Alt key. I'm making a copy while holding down on Shift, and that looks about right. And this time I'll make one more copy and release. Now I'm going to select all of those shapes. I'll go ahead and switch the stroke and the fill so we can really see what this is going to do. Okay, now I'm going to do the exclude option. So what this is going to do is it's going to exclude the intersecting shapes. So anytime there was that intersection, it excluded the shape from that intersection. Okay, I'll zoom out. Let's go try a couple more, actually one more of these Pathfinder options. Now, I'm just going to go over this one here, divide. You can try some of these other ones in your own time, but I find this one is the most useful Pathfinder option, as well as the ones that we just used. So I'll go ahead and do the same shape creation that we just did. So I'll create one circle. I'll do Shift X so I can kind of see what I'm doing. V for the black arrow. I'll hold down on Alt and make a copy. I'll hold down on Alt again and make another copy. I'll select all of the shapes using my black arrow. I'll do Shift X, and then I'm going to come over to the Pathfinder, and under Pathfinders I'm going to click the Divide option. So when you first do that, it doesn't seem like you did anything. And even when I click on it and start to move it around, okay, it still seems like nothing has been done. But if I come up to the application menu and I go to Object and Ungroup, I could also click Command-Shift-G. Now I will click outside the bounding box and hover inside, and I'm going to click right here and then drag. And now you can see that it's divided up all of those shapes based on where they intersected. So I took 3 shapes, and with all their intersections, now we have a lot more of those individual shapes. So let's kind of apply this option and see what we can create. I want to create these interlocking rings. So the first thing I'm going to do is create one of these ring shapes. So I'll do the outside of the ring first. I'll do Shift X so I can see what I'm doing. Then I'll hover in the inside and find that center again. There we go. Hold down on the Alt key, hold down on Shift, and create the inside. Now I need to actually make this a ring, because right now it's just reading this as 2 shapes. I want it to read as 1 shape. There's a couple options of what we could do. I could select this, I'll do Shift X so it's easier to see, and I could do the minus front option, and so that cuts out the top shape from the bottom. I'll show you one more option for doing this, and we'll go over this in later exercises. I'm going to go up to Object, and I'm going to go down to Compound Path and Make. And that's essentially doing the same thing. When we make a compound path, we tell the computer, make these 2 shapes read as 1 shape. Okay, so now that we've created that, all we need to do is copy it. So I'm going to do Shift X, and I will make a copy and drag it on over to this side. So I'm holding down on Alt and Shift. I'll release the mouse, then the keys. And then I'll do the same thing one more time. Hold down on Alt, hold down on Shift, drag it over, and release. I'll go ahead and color these in right now, so it's a little easier to see how we're affecting these. Changing the fill color and not the stroke color. Okay, so now I need to have these read as the interlocking rings. And if you get kind of confused on how these should look, you can go to your layers panel and turn off the visibility of the drawing area, and we can see that we want the first part of this ring to go over, and then we want the bottom part to go over. Okay, so knowing that, I'm going to select all of these, and then I'm going to come over to the Pathfinder and hit Divide. So now it divided all of those shapes, but I also need to make sure that I ungroup them so I can modify them. So I can go Object and Ungroup, and now I have individual shapes. Now I'll just come over here, choose this shape, and I'll change that color to red. Come over to this shape, and I'll change that color to the orange. And now we've actually created that illusion of these interlocking shapes, but they still have the stroke, because they are individual shapes. Let's go ahead and combine the individual shapes. So we know how to do that now. So I'll click on this shape, hold down the Shift key, and select this other shape. Holding down the Shift key, I'll select the last shape. And then I will come over here and choose the Unite option. And so now that reads as 1 shape. So I'll do the same thing down here. Select this, hold down on Shift, select this one, and unite the shapes. I'll do it a couple more times. And there we go. So we successfully used Divide and Unite to create this interlocking ring pattern. So the Pathfinder panel has a lot of capabilities, and there's a lot more that you could do, but this is a good introduction to what the Pathfinder panel is capable of.